Today's show is brought to you by Boat Pattaya of Boat Avenue and Shambhala, Phuket. For more information on their properties, see the link in the description below. Good morning. Welcome to another week of Good Morning Thailand. And the date is, just confirming, it's the 30th of August. I'll get to why I've checked that in just a moment. Morning, Jay.
Hello, good morning.
Now, on Friday,
Yes.
I said it was the 26th of August.
Yes,
and
you
we
did.
got some 100 people telling us, no, you got it wrong. It's the 27th of
They were
August.
furious.
So I've got it worked out.
Yeah.
What we'll do today is we'll do the Friday show.
Okay.
So we'll do the 27th of August show today.
Yes.
And then tomorrow we'll do today's show.
But then we'll have to do a double show for tomorrow.
Maybe we could cancel last Thursday's second show on which we did on Friday.
Let's just pretend it didn't happen. Could do.
I think we've got that sorted.
Yeah.
We do have a lot to talk about, stuff that's happened over the weekend. Confusion abounds on a lot of areas, but for now we'll start with today's COVID numbers.
Sure, Tim. Today in Thailand we had 256 COVID-related deaths, 15,972 infections, 280 from prisons, and 2,028 provisional cases. 17,281 people have recovered and been discharged from hospitals, and 176,137 people are still currently in care in hospitals and field hospitals. So amongst those numbers, more importantly, we have 5,058 people in serious condition and 1,062 people on artificial respiration. In both cases, the numbers are down over the last couple of days, so there is some slight good news in that. In Phuket, in particular, we also have reduced amount of cases. Friday we had 208. Saturday we had 212. However, on Sunday it went down slightly, under 200 to 162.
All right, so plenty to talk about with those numbers. One of the words that use provisional cases, this is a new statistic that's being reported each day. Our understanding, we're not 100% sure, is that these are rapid antigen tests which have come back positive, but need to be double checked with a PCR test.
Yes.
So even though it's not a matter of just adding those provisional numbers to the daily caseload, it's not a sort of a clever way of getting the case numbers lower. I think what will happen if they are positive, we'll hear about them in the next few days.
Yes, sir.
So, but they are reporting these provisional numbers from tests each day. Still a lot of testing going on. All right, and also importantly, I think in just about every area, the new infections are down, the people in hospital are slightly down. So overall, we're sort of heading in the right direction, even though those number of deaths are still quite high at the moment, reflecting the high numbers of cases over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Right, well, so we're going to have a quick break.
Sure, Tim.
What we're going to have a talk about after the break, we've got our news, but then we're having a talk about a war, a demarcation that's literally happening in Phuket between forcing more restrictions and then trying to reopen. So we'll have a talk about that.
Sure.
And what have you got on your plate for discussion?
Well, we have a lot of news topics to go through today. I mean, a lot has been happening, a lot has happened today. So we will be discussing the Phuket Sandbox, the daily nationwide protests that are being planned, as well as a little news from the Paralympics.
And we've also got a Only in Thailand at the end of the program. But for now, a quick break. Thanks to our sponsors at Shambhala. And also, we'll come back in just a moment with Thailand's main stories on Good Morning Thailand. As yesterday's final car mob rally ended peacefully in Pattaya, just north of Bangkok, protest leaders have announced a raft of more conventional rallies every evening across the country, starting this Thursday. Protesters announced that daily protest will be held in front of the Asok BTS station every night from 4 till 8 until PM Prayut Chan-o-cha resigns. Organisers in other provinces say they'll also hold daily rallies as well. Protest leaders reiterated the call for the PM to step down, saying that the new Prime Minister must be fairly elected. The Red Shirt leader predicted the daily protest would force the Prime Minister to step down within 2 weeks. Good luck. Bloomberg has compiled a monthly COVID-19 resilience ranking that tracks a number of metrics to rank which countries are the best to be in to weather the pandemic. Bad news for us, Thailand's fallen on the list from its previous high ranking down to 5th. Not 5th from the top, but 5th from the bottom out of the 53 countries which the index tracks, most of them the world's leading economies. The list is ranked based on 12 factors, including the spread of COVID-19, the amount of vaccination, the overall mortality rate, the quality of medical care, and border and travel restrictions. The bottom of the list is dominated by Southeast Asian countries, with Thailand ranking 49th, followed by Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, and at the very bottom, Malaysia. New Zealand has topped the list more than any other country, but this month fell from 3rd to 29th after a small outbreak has prompted strict lockdowns. The discovery of the body of a man who died after a motorbike accident has emerged as more tragic now that police believe the victim survived the crash but was trapped under his motorbike and obscured by tall grass just a few metres from the busy road. Si Rasha police in Chonburi were notified after friends went looking for their missing friend and found his body, believed to have been dead for 8 days. He was finally found after the family and friends searched high and low, then contacted police for their help. Once they found him, police believe that he survived the crash but was stuck under the bike and was unseen just a few metres from the main road. Koh Larn, the small island off Pattaya, has announced that they'll plan to reopen the island for visitors tomorrow. 3 ferries will also be running each day. The same COVID rules that apply to Chonburi, currently a dark red province, will be applied to the island, such as a ban on large gatherings and a nightly curfew from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's yet to be announced if the beaches will also be reopened by the Chonburi governor. Otherwise, despite the island being reopened, the popular beaches will stay closed. Last week, it was announced that the island would stay closed until the end of the month. And a new 100 million baht temple complex in northeastern Thailand has launched a feud with Cambodia, which claims the temple is copying Angkor Wat, the largest temple complex in the world and the pride of Cambodian culture and tourism. A cultural official in Buriram, the site of the new temple, says the design is based on Khmer stone castles that are common historical features through the Isan area where the temple's located. Angkor Wat was built in the same style when it was part of the same huge Khmer civilization, hence the similarities. But the Buriram official claimed the head monk, who had dreamed he'd been one of the original builders in the 12th century constructing Angkor Wat in a past life, said he followed the vision in designing the new northeast Thailand temple. But Cambodia's director of the Ministry of Culture said experts would travel to Thailand when COVID-19 restrictions allow to examine the temple further. Angkor Wat's been a sacred and fiercely defended part of Cambodia's history and culture for centuries. The temple is so important it even appears on the Cambodian flag. And we'll be back with more of Monday's Good Morning Thailand right after this. It's Monday, the 30th of August, just double checking, and we are doing Friday's show today, just so we can catch up.
Yep.
Now let's go to the story with the Phuket Sandbox. Now, it's not as if we want to talk about Phuket all the time, but the Sandbox is regarding tourism, the sort of the main story. Also noted with the figures over the weekend that Prachuap Khiri Khan, which is where Hua Hin is, has had a large number of cases over the past 3 or 4 days. So it looks like the tourist areas, for whatever reason, are seeing the growth in cases at the moment. It may be sort of the emerging trend. What's happening in Phuket? Because I'm reading on one side that we've got this high caseload and that some officials say, okay, it's now time to lock down the island. But other people are saying, no, we've got to open. It's time to open now. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in some of these meetings.
Well, that's exactly right, Tim. And today there was an article out in the Bangkok Post saying that the Phuket Sandbox is at risk of collapse after a surge. So you're right. We have been over the weekend had more than 200 cases. We've had a lot of cases in the last week. And
well, over 1,000.
Exactly, and that's really concerning for Phuket and the Sandbox itself. And we, quotes are flying around from a lot of officials, government officials, talking about this. And so I have a quote here from Tanti Pirayakit, who's the president of the Phuket Tourism Council, who actually said that these latest cases were not caused by tourists, but local activities.
What does that mean?
Well,
I mean, aren't the tourists coming here and doing local activities?
Exactly. So that's exactly what I thought. But I guess what he's saying is that they're not necessarily bringing it in to Phuket. So they need to contain the situation within the Phuket, and the activities and, the socializing places. Those are the things that need to be controlled. We don't need to necessarily stop people from coming in. I believe that's what he's trying to imply.
We know statistically that the number of cases brought in by tourists, or tourists that come and then prove to be positive after their tests a few days after they arrive, is minute compared to these number of locally produced cases, which some, we would have to admit, are probably coming from people reopening their bars when perhaps they shouldn't be.
Yes.
There are some socialising activities that you can understand people are trying to sort of slip through with brown paper envelopes and eyes going hither or thither, and police perhaps avoiding the obvious. But there are a lot of places open that perhaps shouldn't be open if the current guidelines were being met. So should we be enforcing the current guidelines and hoping that will bring the numbers down?
Well, that's the thing. So I have another quote here from Mr. Sarayut Malam, who's the chief advisor to the PTC. And he says that if the island is put under a 2-month lockdown, for example, or heavy restrictions, that could spell the doom for the Phuket Sandbox scheme.
So either way, if the numbers continue to go up, the daily numbers, that's hardly going to entice people to come to the island.
Yes.
Because the whole idea of the Phuket Sandbox is come to our safe, tropical, secure island. So the narrative for the tourism authorities and for local traders is, what is it? A really difficult time.
Really difficult time. And I have last quote here from the Phuket government, Mr. Narong Wonsiu, who says, this is a life and death situation for the future of Phuket Sandbox and Phuket tourism, possibly.
Well, that's absolutely correct. No matter what they do, they're going to be damned if they do and damned if they don't. If they do, well, to put it into perspective, the number of cases we've had in Phuket over the past week exceeds the number of cases per capita that was seen in Bangkok over a month ago when they decided to apply the dark red zone restrictions.
Yes.
So we are talking about a large number of cases, whether they're being hospitalised or not, just the number of cases, the sheer number of cases is quite high. Now, extend this to all of Thailand.
Okay.
And we had, in the middle of June, the Prime Minister came out and said we are going to reopen Thailand by the middle of October. And now we've got a similar fight happening where we've got people like the Chamber of Commerce saying we must stick to this deadline. No matter what's happening, we must stick to the deadline. The Prime Minister said it was going to be open in the middle of October, so we're going to open in the middle of October. Now, the Prime Minister has said different things in the past. I bring to your attention what he said just before Songkran. Whatever will be, will be. The reason is it's a matter that involves a huge number of people. The government will just have to try and cope with that later. Now, those words have come back to haunt him a few times when he basically said, go and do your Songkran, go and visit the provinces, and that sort of kicked off.
Yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare.
What is we're now sort of living through at the end of August. On June the 15th, he said, we have to come to terms with it. COVID will continue to be around the world and in Thailand for some time. And that's when he said, we've now got to open up in 120 days. So we're sort of halfway through that period. And we've now got people like the KLA party, which is a party that started in about March last year. The spokesperson, the Secretary General of that party, Attavit Suwanapakdi, did my best. He said at the halfway mark of the government's mid-October reopening promise, politicians and stakeholders cautiously agreed that the deadline must be honoured and the economy cannot stay shut any longer. So there's a lot of pressure to try and pry open the country, to reopen the economy, to get people opening their stores again and get trading and reopen the borders to tourism whilst the country is still trying to roll out the vaccinations. It's still fighting quite a high caseload. And the bottom line is that 10% of the country at the moment, as of today, is fully vaccinated. Only 10%.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think? If you were the Prime Minister, what would you do? Would you say, no, we've got to get this sorted first before we talk about reopening, or damn it, we've got this deadline of the middle of October and the country has to be open and we'll just open it anyway?
I think the problem starts with them not sticking to what they say. So if they do make a plan, for example, I understand, sometimes you have to adapt to the situation, but if they say, for example, October, sometimes they keep changing their plans every week. So there needs to at least be a solid plan that they stick to. So for example, let's say that they do open in October. Easiest solution would be, okay, let's not open. Let's just keep on delaying it. And that's what seems to happen. However, the delays are not helping. The COVID numbers are still quite high. So what exactly do you do? Maybe there is a better solution to find a way to live with it, because at this point, I don't know, is the economy going to crash if the Phuket Sandbox fails? What's going to happen to tourism in Thailand?
Well, luckily we've got some fine politicians who are paid a large amount of money to make these difficult decisions, Jay.
And not me.
We should also say that from Tuesday, the 1st of September.
2nd of September.
Sorry, what's Tuesday? Tuesday. I'm not very good with my dates at the moment. I'm having a bad run. I'm just double checking. When is the 1st of September? It's Wednesday, the 1st of September. They are going to allow provincial travel around the country on buses, on aeroplanes, and suddenly all the provincial bus services, all the airlines are announcing flights into and out of Bangkok and interconnecting dark red zones. The Civil Aviation Authority has said we're going to reopen the skies. There will be conditions. Now, here's the thing. I thought, okay, I can get back to Bangkok to continue what I was doing before all this started, and I was travelling to and from our Bangkok office and back to our Phuket office and travelling back to my home in Phuket each weekend. Now, I double checked. Now, Vietjet currently say you have to be fully vaccinated. That means with the vaccines currently available in Thailand, you have to have had 2 doses, no matter what the vaccine. Also, you have to have either a rapid antigen test or a PCR test conducted by a doctor and a certificate to prove. So quite a heavy burden of proof on the passenger, on the bus or the aeroplane. Other airlines are not actually saying what the conditions are going to be. So the big question over the next few days is, what are we going to be required to carry to travel at this time? And this will open up a whole lot of other things. What will be required to go into a restaurant at this stage? And they've already said if you are vaccinated, you'll be able to go and visit restaurants. We've already had a debate about that. So interesting times ahead. But I can't give you a cast iron guaranteed answer at the moment what will be required to get on a plane from Wednesday when a lot of these airlines are going to restart. And I suspect that it's probably going to be partly depending on the province that you are either flying from or flying to.
Yep.
So if we have left you with a feeling of complete confusion, that's because that is the situation that we currently face. A lot of confusion as we start to emerge from wherever we've been over the past few months. How do you feel about it all?
Confused. Just like every time Thailand or the officials announce anything, really. There's a lot of confusion for the first 2 weeks until we basically just figure out by making mistakes.
And you've got a UK friend who has left the country in the last couple of days?
That's right. So due to UK adding Thailand to the red list, a friend who had to unfortunately leave on Saturday morning. They had to quickly book their flights and just rush off back home to avoid this 10-day isolation period, quarantine that they'd have to do in UK because it just costs way too much.
Yes, well, there's been a lot, out of the countries that have been visiting during the Sandbox, the United States was first, Thailand was the second, in other words, people returning to Thai people returning. Mm-hmm. Then the next one was, in fact, a close third was visitors from the UK. So we're probably not going to see many UK travellers coming to Thailand whilst it remains on the UK's red list.
Definitely not. It wouldn't be worth it for them.
And you've got a fair chunk of tourists now taken out of the Sandbox model. So what are they going to be replaced with? Russians. Because now that Thailand has approved the Sputnik vaccine. Yep. They're thinking that there's going to be a lot of Russians travelling to Phuket. They are usually looking for a slightly cheaper hotel. They're not after the high-end 5-star hotels. They were very popular when it came to the sort of the 3-star hotels, and from what I've been told in the past, quite demanding when it comes to a competitive price point.
Yeah.
So that's going to add another dynamic as we sort of stumble forward. All right, we're going to come back and have a talk about protests and have a bit of a look at only in Thailand amongst some other topics in just a moment. But let's check out the regional headlines around the area.
An earthquake with a magnitude of 6.0 rocked Indonesia's easternmost province of Papua on Saturday, but no preliminary reports on damages or casualties have been made. A total of 14.5 million individuals, or 62% of the adult population in Malaysia, have been at least partially vaccinated against COVID-19 as of yesterday. Over 33 million doses have now been administered. Singapore has now fully vaccinated 80% of its population against the coronavirus, making it the world's most inoculated country, as much of the rest of Southeast Asia struggles to control the spread of the highly infectious Delta variant. 2 people have died in Japan days after receiving doses from a batch of Moderna COVID-19 vaccines, whose use was suspended last Thursday following concerns over contamination risk. An explosion went off near a military convoy on 62nd Street in Myanmar's Mandalay yesterday morning. Locals say the large blast shook the entire neighborhood.
Hi, it's Monday, the 30th of August. Just double checking. And it's Good Morning Thailand. We thank you very much for joining us today, and we've been speaking about COVID enough. Let's have a talk about the protests. Sure. Because over the weekend, these protesters, despite the fact that they've been told do not get into groups of more than 5, they've continued to put the accelerator pedal down.
That's right. So, Tim, in Thailand, starting from September 2nd, there are going to be daily nationwide protests to begin in Bangkok in front of BTS Asok. However, these daily protests will actually be held from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. and it'll be nationwide across Thailand in the different regions until the Prime Minister, General Prayut, resigns. Well, he's not a general anymore. Until Prime Minister Prayut resigns. And the organizers in other provinces will announce the daily timings and the rally sites so that everyone can come together at the same time. And the idea is for them, they think that they're going to force the Prime Minister to step down within 2 weeks.
Yeah, good luck with that. Over the last couple of weeks, they've been having these car mobs where they're not allowed to gather personally because the police come out and they break them up with tear gas and water cannons. So they've been doing these car mobs and sort of closing down important intersections with car horns and banners and stuff. But they're sitting in their cars, so it's pretty hard to go and arrest them. BTS Asok is one of the busiest intersections of the city. It's intersecting Asok and Sukhumvit. Yep. And there's a big station there where you've got the SkyTrain intersecting with the Metro underground. So an area I know very well because when I live up in Bangkok, that's sort of my stamping ground.
A lot of people have to travel to Asok. It's a big office area, connecting lines. So it's a big hub. It's going to cause a lot of disruption.
I've also noticed that with a lot of the earlier protesters, the young protesters who were involved last year are currently detained, some of them on bail, some of them are in hospital with COVID. So it looks like the red shirts are driving this new part of the protest cycle.
That is correct. And it was actually the leader of the red shirts that had said that they will try to force the Prime Minister, expecting it to be around 2 weeks.
So it looks like the young, hopeful protesters are now sort of being replaced by these hardcore, old-time protests, which brings sort of the whole yellow shirts, red shirts dynamic back into what was last year more of a student, progressive protest movement. So it could get a bit ugly. I think that's what we're seeing. But if you are up in Bangkok and you're hanging around that sort of main Sukhumvit area, be prepared for some protest. I'm not really sure how that's going to roll out, but we'll soon find out. Let's have a talk about some good news from the Paralympics over the past few days.
That's right, Tim. So wheelchair racer Pongsakorn Payo broke the world record as he won Thailand its first gold medal at the Paralympic Games at the Tokyo Olympic Stadium on Sunday. And he actually broke the world record in 400-meter T53 title with a time of 46.61.
What's a T53?
So in common language, I guess, he wheelchair racing pretty much. So it was a 400-meter around the track on a wheelchair, and he broke
46 seconds.
Yes, that's right, 46.61. So you can have a look at him in this video here, as you can see, and yeah, broke the world record. It's an amazing time, and it's a great achievement for him and for Thailand.
Congratulations. Matched with gold medals. Well, Thailand got one gold medal in the main Olympics?
Yes, yes, that's correct, in Taekwondo.
Okay. All right, so well done, Thailand, in the Paralympics currently being held in Tokyo, Japan. We're going to have another quick break and then we'll come back. We're going to check Thailand's weather. Then we're going to come back and have a little bit of a giggle to end today's program on Good Morning Thailand. Starting off with some clear skies in the capital and a temperature of 32 today. Should be a little bit of cloud, but some sunshine as well. Looking towards some poorer air quality over the next few days. Temperature of 30 and 31 over the next 2 days. Down to the Sandbox, and 29 is the top today. Few early showers. Then should be clearing up a little bit, but over the next couple of days still expect a little bit of rain together with the sunshine. Temperatures around or down to 27 degrees. A little bit more muggy in the skies around the northeast of Thailand, a top temperature of 32 today, 28 and 28 over the next 2 days. A little bit of rain around the area, and the same up in the north where the air quality isn't quite so good as the rest of the country. A top temperature of 31 today, but 31 over the next 2 days, down to 22 at night and a few showers around. To the central Gulf Coast, and temperatures of 29 all the way through the forecast period, and we've got temperatures down to 25 and 26 at night. A little bit of rain, but you should see some sunshine as well. And over the other side of the Gulf and the province of Chonburi and Pattaya, we've got temperatures of 30 today but down to 27 tomorrow, 30 on Wednesday, and generally clear skies. Welcome back to Good Morning Thailand on Monday. Hope you had a fantastic weekend. Time for a little bit of fun. You would know that when you get to some of the big traffic lights around Thailand, they've got these countdowns, which sort of just make you just sit there and watch it as it counts down. And sometimes that can drive you insane.
That's right, Tim. Sometimes, the red lights are for more than 2 to 3 minutes red. However, they are only I've only seen a maximum of 15 seconds green light, but this green light in specific is something special. It is only green for 5 seconds.
Oh dear, that'd be a lot of frustration there. Do we know where it is?
Well, it's said to be in Bangkok. I mean, could you imagine if you were just snoozing in your car waiting for the red light and when it goes green and you missed it? I mean...
5 seconds.
Oh, my Lord.
Harsh. All right, but it has been raining in quite a lot of the country over the past week.
Yep.
Pattaya last week had some enormous storms and drains filling up and flooding abound. Down in the south in Phuket, there's been quite a lot of rain, even over, well, not so much the weekend, it wasn't too bad, although we had a little bit of rain this morning. But sometimes, well, you can take advantage of the situation.
That's right, Tim. This is an extreme example of when you get lemons, make lemonade, Thai version. We have a gentleman here taking full advantage of the floods.
Yeah, a foreigner too. So all we can say is that we probably wouldn't recommend, if there is a flood, that you go wading out there in a boat or anything else, because you just don't know what's
it's a
under the
floaty.
water.
I mean, it's not even a proper boat, but I mean, he seems to be enjoying himself, and the people videotaping him were having a laugh. So, I mean, I guess it's making light of the situation.
Yeah, apart from sharp objects under the water, in Thailand there can also be those good old monitor lizards, maybe the odd crocodile.
You don't want to fall in that water as well.
Some snakes.
Yep.
All right, so with that, we say thank you for joining us on today's Good Morning Thailand. We hope the rest of your Monday is fantastic. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you to Jason pressing the buttons, and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.